greetings, horror sci-fi fans, and happy third week of October. And today we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing top 13 scariest horror movie moments. And there's only one person that um I have to invite on here. He's a mythical man who loves making lists, and he's a little bit nerdy. That man is Lackey the Listicle. How's it going, sir?
Hi, everybody. I'm doing great.
You excited? Are
Oh, I'm so excited for this. I think this is going to be a great episode.
that's awesome. We scared to watch some of these scenes again.
So scared. It's
Oh,
been
really?
I had to rewatch like 40 movies
Oh,
to try to
wow.
prepare for this. And I'm very happy to be done with that assignment.
Well, that's why you're called Lackey the Listicle, because you just like watching movies and
I love
drinking
it.
and doing ranking them.
My best. It's my
So,
best. I love it. Love it so much.
yeah, I was so scared to watch my number two, to be honest with you. Like, my number two is really scary.
Ooh, I'm excited to hear it.
You know what's funny? I have a friend named Reed, and his last name is Lackey. And you know what? Kind of looks like you. Oh,
Oh.
wait. Here's Reed now. How's it going, man?
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Nothing much, man. I'm
It's
yeah, I'm hoping you're having a good October, because this is being posted in
yeah.
October, but we're recording it a few months earlier.
I know. Listen, there's always room for Halloween. So
Yeah.
let me be the literal first this year to wish you a happy Halloween.
Oh, thanks, man.
So it's awesome. Yeah, I'm
Well,
excited.
it's gonna be the first when we're recording, like the first
Sure.
one of probably, yeah, because yeah, we got my Nightmare on Elm Street review coming out.
Oh, that's
And
true.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
which I'm excited for. I'm a big Fred head.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man, you excited to talk about some scary moments in some horror
I'm
movies?
eager. I'm eager. I love a list. So I was so excited when you invited me on
Yeah.
to count these down, and I'm so curious
Mm.
to see what's on yours. Do, if you don't mind, uh, to maybe kick things off, there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention that actually didn't make my
Right.
list. Do you
Well,
want to get it?
real quick.
Sure. Yeah.
So what were kind of your criteria, since we just kind of discussed that like last time we made our favorite
Yeah.
horror moments? And what kind of
Absolutely.
differentiates scariest from your favorite?
So, what I did when I made this list is I had three basic rules. The first rule is it had to have made a distinct impression on me the first time I saw the movie.
Mm,
So it had to be something, and sometimes there's a little story that goes with it. Most of the time, it's just I was watching the movie and it really this particular moment, this particular scene stood out to me. So that was my first rule: is it had to have made a real strong impression to me the first time I saw the film. The second is it had to be something that still has an effect on me even when I watch it now. Now, that effect may not be fear. Some of these I've seen so many times that I know what's happening, but it has to still be impactful to me in some way right now. It has to hold some
mm,
significance to me, either through memory or either through like, get my heart racing or something like that. It has to have made an impression on me at the beginning and it has to still have
right.
an effect on me right now. And the third criteria, just to help me whittle some of these down, is with only one exception. There's one exception on the list, but with only one exception, I eliminated for myself things that were purely related to a single jump scare.
Mm,
Now, there's literally dozens and dozens of times where I have been straight up got by
mm,
a jump scare in a film, and they've been very scary, and they've even fit the other two criteria. They stay with me, they still have an effect on me.
right.
But when I was whittling these down, what I did do, I know as Lackey the Listicle, I joked about this, but what I did do is I rewatched. I had a kind of a short list of
Mm,
maybe 25 to 30 films that or like moments that I knew. And so I pulled up those individual moments over the course of the past few weeks, pulled up those individual moments and rewatched just the moments just to see, like, okay, what this
right.
versus this versus this. And as I was watching them, I noticed that the jump scares, the ones that I kind of eliminated, they're all about the jump scare itself. It's like, and for me, this list had to be a little bit more than that. It had to be an
Mm,
entire scene for me that would encapsulate why this was scary. So that's just a personal criteria that I put on my list. So
yeah, cool, man.
yeah, that was it for me. What about for you?
Very similar to you. To your criteria. It for me, it's more. It's not necessarily like a scene that creeps me out or is kind of spooky. It's a
Mhm.
scene that like I will always remember. Like when I think
Yeah,
of this movie, like I kind of shudder in fear thinking about this moment. And
sure.
like I said, up top, like I'm not even kidding. Number two is so disturbing and so
Mm-hmm.
messed up that I didn't even want to watch the scene again.
Sure. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, let's get to it, man. What's your honorable mentions?
So honorable mentions are I'll just rattle off a
Yeah.
handful here. They are the ones where I sort of set my jump scares, where I'm just like, like basically my honorable mentions are the handful of like jump scares that I would
Right.
like, okay, these moments are really
And
scary. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
feel like jump scares could be his own separate list.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point because it's like a different kind of vibe. The setup has to be different, the payoff has to be different, and a really effective jump scare when it's done right is a thing of beauty almost. But I'll just rattle these off rather quickly if you don't
Mm,
mind. I don't know if you've seen some of these, but I know we have a big list to get to, so I
right.
won't spend a lot of time on these. Um, so these are in no particular order. I did not rank the
Mm,
honorable mentions, but I'll just mention them as I noted them. The first one I wrote down was the there's a car scene in The Haunting of Hill House that's a big jump scare.
mm,
If you've seen The Haunting of Hill House and I mention the scene in the car, you'll probably know what I'm
yeah.
talking about. Um, that was a big one. If you've ever seen the film called Under the Shadow, there's a moment when a character is reaching under the bed,
Mm,
and there's a very effective jump scare
right.
with what's under that bed. And then also if I'm correct, just recently watched the film Don't Look Now.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
the day we're recording this.
yeah, and so Don't Look Now, the final moment when a I will say for people who haven't seen it, a character dies towards the end of the film,
Yes,
and
that was pretty shocking.
yeah, that character's death is an honorable mention for me. I only have two more.
Right.
The other two were there's a moment in the film Sinister where he's watching a home video, specifically the home video that involves the lawnmower.
Ugh.
Again, yeah, if you've yeah,
That's pretty messed up.
yeah, and so that one is worth mentioning. And then the last one, I think there's a case to be made. It's
Mm,
one of the greatest jump scares in all of film history. Is a moment from The Exorcist 3. If you've seen The Exorcist 3, you already know what moment I'm talking
Well, I
about.
know what movie you're talking about. It's
Yeah,
the one in the hallway.
yeah, the hallway hospital.
Yep.
And that scene is just so effectively
Mm,
constructed. One of the greatest jump scares in cinema history.
right.
So yeah, that's all my honorable mentions. That I just wanted. They're not on my list, but I thought they were worth noting.
Sweet. Yeah, yeah, Don't Look Now is a pretty cool 70s like horror psychological drama
I'm
movie.
glad you liked it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was a little slow, but then once I kind of discovered, oh, this is where it's going, it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
The one part, because this is the 70s, it's a little cheesy in some areas. The
Sure.
part that actually kind of made me laugh a little bit was it was the part right after Donald Sutherland gets out of the shower and he's like
Uh-huh.
naked and he's like
Uh-huh.
at his desk and they're in a hotel and then
Oh
like the
yeah, when
maid
the
comes in
the
and like
housekeeper comes in.
yeah, and he's like,
Yeah.
oh, and he covers up his junk, like he's not even like freaked out.
Right.
Like, he's like,
Oh,
oh,
that's funny. And it's so
about
they don't exchange any words. It's just like we'll never speak of this again.
yeah. So my first honorable mention comes from one of my favorite movies of all time, and that's I gotta say this in the line, and that's gonna be a little "This is the Zodiac speaking" from the Beat the
Yeah,
Talk Show.
man. Yeah,
I
dude.
could I can imagine being a parent and there's a murderer, like a serial killer out there, in
Mm.
your area.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Then I'm gonna go The Thing, Tearing Through the Dog, and The Thing, John Carpenter
Mm.
one.
Yep.
Um, Annie Wilkes finding out that Paul Sheldon killed the character Misery in Misery.
Oh,
Yeah.
great moment. Great
Then
moment.
there's yeah, that just freaks out.
Oh, it's awesome.
Um, Another one from Stephen King would have to be the introduction of Rose the Hat. Mostly just because I read the book previously and I know what this woman is capable of. And then
Right.
I was watching this movie for the first time late at night, and I'm like, My God, something bad's gonna happen. This kid's gonna die. Um, this isn't a horror movie. Actually, you chose this one or this series too, but it's gonna be the bent neck lady from Haunted Hill House because
Yeah.
that's just freaky when you think like, oh, it's just this creepy ghost, but no, it's you. Order.
Oh man. Great characterization. Yeah, it's awesome.
This next one it goes to my fear of home invasion. It's gonna be Ghostface keep unlocking Tara's door from Scream 5.
Oh,
Yeah, that
yeah.
just
Yeah,
puts
yeah,
me
yeah.
on edge. Reagan peeing on the floor from The Exorcist because that's just like if you know this movie, like
Oh, yeah.
some serious shit's about to happen.
Oh, you're gonna die
Um,
up there. Ooh.
yep. The
Yeah.
first attack in Jaws.
Mm.
Patrick Bateman crossing the street with a lone woman in the middle of New York from American
Ooh.
Psycho. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of these
Yeah.
are subtle. I like a lot of subtle ones. You kind of get to me
Yeah.
sometimes. Uh,
Strong moments.
yeah, the sliding door kill from Texas Chainsaw Massacre was when we're recording this, we just reviewed that.
Yeah, dude. I gotta say a mention on the sliding door thing. So it didn't make either my honorable mentions or my
Mm.
list, but it came so darn close. Like,
Ooh, yeah,
had this list been like a top 20, it probably would have made my list. Like,
yeah.
so I'm glad you mentioned it. Yeah.
And then Rosemary's being raped by Satan, and Rosemary's
Uh,
Baby. That's real disturbing.
that's awful. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, Mia's first possession from Talk to Me.
Ooh. Yep.
He'll split you, boy. He'll split you.
Mhm. Yeah,
When she
man.
said that, like that freaked me out. I'm like, oh my, what does that mean?
So creepy, dude. So
Yeah.
creepy.
From Black Swan, that's gonna be Nita, Natalie Portman's character tripping out on drugs.
Oh, yeah.
Thing
Yeah.
I've seen in any movie has freaked me out, but also turned me on at the same time. There's that famous lesbian scene in the middle of this,
It-
which is kind of
it's uh it's meant to kind of be alluring and repulsive at the same time.
yeah.
It's meant to have that kind of
Well,
dichotomy
what I
to it.
liked about it was later in the movie, Natalie Portman tells Mila Kunis's character about like, oh, we had had a dream where we made out, and then
Hmm.
Mila Kunis is like, oh, was I good?
Yeah,
So,
that's the first place her mind goes.
yeah, I like that because like it. This is a really disturbing movie. It's Darren Aronofsky, but like he puts in a little bit of levity
Hmm.
there. From Pet Cemetery, I'm gonna go Zelda for my next one.
That's a strong one. Really strong one.
Yep. A recent one. I'm gonna go the final slot of Pearl because holy crap!
Yep.
And I don't know why Mia Goth did not get nominated for that
Oh,
scene alone.
it's amazing. It's so
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, the final credit shot of Pearl was also maybe not a top 20, but
Mm.
it would have been on the list if we'd gone like 25 or something. It was definitely in
Yeah,
contention.
and it's not just that; it's everything around it. It's her
Yeah.
husband coming home to find that all these dead people are in
Oh,
remission,
man.
including Superman.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yep,
yep, yep,
absolutely.
yep. Our next Superman, David Cohen Sweat, and I hope he
That's
does a
right.
really good job. He looks great in the costume.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
very open-minded about it.
Mm.
I'm eager to see a new take on it.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure, it's gonna be really good. I hope. Next two is recent. From Late Night with the Devil, which you covered
Yep.
recently. I'm gonna go with the worm scene because that was his like,
Ooh.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was tough.
yep. And then from Insidious, the Red Door, I'm gonna go the MRI scare.
Mm.
Now I don't know if I would be claustrophobic, and I've been in MRI machines once when I was underage, so that to put me to sleep. And then the next
Yeah.
one was on my leg. So, but I
Yeah.
never actually been in one. Like my whole body
Oh,
been in
yeah,
one
yeah.
while constant. So I can't imagine how that feel. And I mean, for a first time director, Patrick Wilson did a great job capturing.
Yeah. I love the guy. I think the guy's great.
Yeah, well, I remember he got Ghost to do a cover of on that song by the I can't remember the band, but the song "Stay," but Ghost does a cover of it for the end of the credits. And I
Yeah.
remember I saw him in the interview, and he said, "Well, I kind of wanted to do a Dream Warriors Dawkins kind of thing."
Ah,
Dude, I love
yeah.
you even more. Cause Dream Warriors is amazing. I love that
Absolutely.
movie. maybe the night I'll be gone. And then last, this is actually from a TV show. Story here. I just found out about this TV show.
Yeah.
When I watched this. Um, it was actually they actually made a ride, and all you know what's coming. It was a ride at Disney World called the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
Oh,
Absolutely traumatized me. And then my dad told me that Twilight Zone was the old TV show.
yep.
So I saw on the TV guide thing on the cable box that a Twilight Zone episode was gonna be what that was gonna come on, and it was at the very like end of the episode. And the episode was Eye of the Beholder.
I thought that's where you were going. That's awesome. That is
Yeah,
so cool.
and so the whole episode, I won't go into the whole thing, but there's a big reveal, and it
Oh
scared
yeah.
the apps. And this was before like I got real deep into horror. I was still fascinated by horror, but I wasn't watching a lot of horror movies.
Sure. Yeah.
But this scared the absolute shit out of me when I saw it the
It's
first
pretty
time.
great. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, so I have to mention that because I will never forget that. And to this day, I've seen close to maybe like 10 or 15 episodes of the original Twilight Zone, but
Hmm.
that one is still my favorite, and I've gone back to that one a few times, and
It's one of mine too. It's
yeah,
awesome.
I love that episode so much. But yeah, man, you ready to get down to some horror business?
Let's
What's your
do
13,
it.
man? Where's your
Yep.
13?
Okay, so I'm starting with 13. Okay.
Yes.
So my number 13 is a moment where I don't know if you want me to describe the moment first or the movie, but
Whatever you want to do.
I'll start with the moment. So there's this lady sitting out on a park bench, and there's some monkey
Forrest
bars
Gump.
behind her. No.
Yes.
um, there's some monkey bars behind her, and she turns to look, and a couple of birds are sitting on the monkey bars.
Mm.
And then she waits. She's looking around. She's waiting for someone. She turns back, and there's a few more. It's like a half a dozen birds up there. That's curious. And then she keeps looking at the cars driving by, at the people walking by, and it lingers for a little bit. And then suddenly, when she looks back, those monkey bars are absolutely covered in birds.
Yes.
Yes, I'm talking about Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
Oh yeah,
Um,
good movie. That's probably my top three favorite Hitchcock.
Oh, it's so awesome. And that particular scene, it's like the birds are already posing a threat
Mm.
through the film, but that shot when it lingers after a little while, you saw like a dozen or so reach the monkey bars, but then when it lingers for a while and suddenly when it finally tilts back after waiting a beat
Mm.
and it's absolutely covered, it's terrifying, man. It's just the concept you
Yeah.
immediately know like, "Oh my God, it's one of the most nightmarish natural disaster or
Mm.
natural predator kind of films that I've ever seen. And that
Yeah.
moment in particular always gets me. Always
Yeah,
gets me.
yeah, yeah, that's a good one. It's funny because I went to the theater to go see this movie with my grandma,
Mm,
this time last year actually,
yeah.
and, absolutely loved it, and the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm like especially towards, like, the back half, I'm thinking, "What I feel like Steven Spielberg directed this. This is very, like, Steven Spielberg
Yeah. Yeah.
esque
It
in a
has that
lot of
kind of
areas.
flavor.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I can totally see why, like, what how other people like, George Romero or, like, Toby Hooper and, like, Shyamalan,
Hmm.
I could totally see why they or where they would be influenced by
Yeah.
this movie, in
Absolutely.
particular, because Hitchcock was more kinda classy,
Hmm.
and then, Psycho was very kind of provocative and then very kinda gritty, and I
Absolutely.
think I wanted to say, like, The Birds is very provocative or controversial, but it is still just as gritty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um,
And the birds immediately followed Psycho. So
mm,
a lot of people, kind of a good chunk of his late term legacy is rooted in that 1-2 punch of those films, Psycho and then The Birds.
yeah.
And
Yeah, that was,
yeah,
like yeah, the '60s were definitely, like, the beginning of, like, modern horror.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And a lot of it starts with him too.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, for
Yep.
sure.
So I love that flick. What's
Yeah.
your uh
Well,
what's your number
one more
13?
thing, it's funny
Yeah.
'cause the year before I saw The Birds, I think you had it on your list for the
Mm.
favorite. Yeah, it was Hispanic,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
hadn't
That's
seen it at
awesome.
that point, and then the year after finally seen the movie.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. My number 13 is gonna be a movie that came out last year, from some director. I don't know if you ever heard of him, named M. Night Shyamalan. But that's gonna be Knock at the Cabin. When Leonard
Ooh.
meets Gwen for the first time.
Ooh,
I like
yeah.
before that where during the opening credits, there's pictures of the coming apocalypse and drawings of newspapers and envelopes.
Hmm.
And then it cuts to Wen collecting grasshoppers outside until Leonard walks up to her and says, "Hey, I'm on from around here. I was hoping to make some new friends.
Hmm.
Can I talk to you a bit?" And then Wen responds, "I don't talk to strangers." And Leonard goes, "Of course you don't." And he looked around to establish that something's coming. And he
Oh,
said, "You
man.
shouldn't. I'm here to be your friend." And that's what he does to build trust. And they introduce each other, and I love how Sonalok shows the size difference with low angles and the POV shot, and
Yeah.
then the hand's bigger than her hand. And it kind of reminds me of Little Maria in Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
That's
little
a
bit.
very good comparison.
Yeah, because like this big hulking giant character, who's gentle, interacting with this little girl. And he helps when collect these grasshoppers, and he basically tells her to wait till the, other ones calm down before they put in the new one, and he's almost kinda telling her he's almost calming her down before the coming storm,
Right.
and because, something's about to happen, like, and then he keeps looking over to the woods that they keep talking, and they keep asking each other questions like, "What's your favorite movie?"
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, Wynn eventually asked Leonard what he's doing here, and he looked over to the woods again. He keeps doing that thing,
Hmm.
and they're just constantly just on the edge of your seats. And he hears them, and he keeps just talking to her, and you find about the two dads. Um, and then he asks her about the scars, and then he says, "Your family has to make it a very hard decision," and
Ooh.
like that's when like shit hit the fan. And most horror movies famously do have a cold open like this where something
Right.
kind of scary happened that kicks off the whole thing. But he wouldn't really call it the exciting incident per se.
Right. Right.
If the first attack in Jaws, it wouldn't be the exciting incident. It would be when I guess when the Kidner boy gets eaten, but that's a whole another debate.
Right. No, that's a very good point. Because things don't really get really real
Mm,
until the second attack.
right.
So
Yeah, and
yeah,
then
that is debatable. Yeah.
yeah, and then Drew Barrymore getting killed in Scream, that's not
Sure.
really a sign, it's when Sydney gets the call from Ghostface.
Mm.
That's when she gets involved with that.
Yeah. Yep. That's interesting.
And so but that's what I like about it. So, like, Shyamalan does something different, like, he gives you the exciting incident, like, right
Hmm.
here, right now, like, within the first, like, 10 minutes of the
Yeah,
movie.
it's true. Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
it's the
true.
whole time, and he barely lets you off the hook. Like, this movie is constantly like, you're on the edge of your seat,
Yeah.
and it freaked me out. Because as you know, I grew up in the church.
Hmm.
I'm not, religious anymore. I don't identify as Christian, but when I did, I actually used to believe that God is one day gonna just destroy the whole world.
Yeah, a lot
And
of people
so,
do. Yeah.
yeah, I know you don't from,
No.
yeah,
Mm-mm. No.
from the conversation you have with your co-host Nathan on the podcast, but I
Yeah.
don't know, to see this watch this movie, it brought back a lot of those memories. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like pushed down my throat, but it was definitely like something that lingered in the back of my head.
Oh, I believe
Yeah.
it. Yeah, certainly understand. Absolutely.
But anyway, what's your number 12?
Okay. So my number 12, brief story about where I saw it, back to the impression thing. So, my parents often had to travel around a lot because my father was a traveling minister before he became a pastor. And so when we would go to a particular town, sometimes we would stay in a hotel. And I would usually stay awake later than my mom and dad. And oftentimes, if my mom and dad were asleep, I would turn a movie because the hotels had like HBO and they sometimes had like, Showtime and stuff like that. And so I would usually turn it to HBO and turn the sound down to where I could kind of just hear it with my parents asleep in the other room. And that is the way that I saw this next film. I will go ahead and rip the band aid off that I'm going to Silence of the Lambs.
Mm.
And particularly the moment in Silence of the Lambs, I can't remember exactly how old I would have been, probably like 14 or 15. But when I saw Hannibal Lecter escape from his little enclosure that they had in that big. You remember they had him in a cage
Oh
that
yeah.
was inside of a big room, and when he orchestrates his escape attempt, that entire sequence still galvanizes me. There's that one moment where they come in and when they finally break into the room, and he has hung the one of the guards
Mhm.
up from the top of the cage.
Dude, the music,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
Uh
it's
it
big and epic.
it's and if you think about it too hard, it begins to sort of fall apart about
Mm,
like, okay, how did he get him positioned up here? How did all this stuff happen? But um it doesn't dilute any of the effectiveness of the
mm,
moment. That, like 10-minute sequence is so intense. And it's still there's still moments of it that I'll get the heebie-jeebies about when I think back to those specific moments.
mm.
And even when rewatching individual moments to prepare for this, that one still gave me chills. So
Right.
so yeah, Hannibal Lecter's escape in The Silence of the Lambs, that whole sequence really gets under my skin, and it's my number 12.
Sweet, man. Science of the Lamp is actually gonna come up again later in this.
Ooh, nice.
Yep.
Cool. Cool.
So my number 12 is from my personal scariest movie of all time.
Ooh, okay.
And I could have gone with a lot of moments in this movie, because a lot of moments really stick out to me.
Mm-hmm.
But this moment from The Babadook,
Ooh,
the
nice.
part where Sam or Amelia is trying to keep Sam up so the Babadook won't come, and it
Mm-hmm.
cuts to her channel flipping through stuff like the Phantom of the Opera, the Unmasking Scene, nature
Yeah.
documentaries, random action movies, and horror movies, until she ends up on the news. And the story is about a mother who stabbed her own son to death. This is
Oh
what
man.
subconsciously Amelia wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the white saw of the house. And then you see a woman, which is Amelia, I'm assuming,
Yeah. Yeah.
peek back, from the curtain. And the saws get closer and closer. And then the electricity just goes off.
Ooh.
And then the one little moment that really freaks me out about the scene, and I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, when it's at the white spot before it goes closer, you see the curtain get pulled back,
Mm.
and you see her peeking out for a little bit, and then it goes close. Dude, that part freaks me out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's very effective.
But it's
That
also
whole movie, man, it's so great.
well, it's a scary movie for sure, but it has a very hypnotic quality to it
I agree. Totally
in a
agree.
weird way. Uh,
Yeah, it completely sucks you in.
yeah, well, now it's like the 10th anniversary of that movie, which is crazy.
That's nuts to me. That's wild. It is 2014. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well
Wow.
well, that was actually the second review that me and Eric ever did, and that was back when
Really?
we were posting the videos just on Facebook. So I ended up, reposting it on YouTube and on Spotify.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for the 10-year anniversary,
Wow.
plus more people could watch it. But what I like about the scene, as creepy as it is, it's kind of beautifully metaphoric
Mm-hmm.
because Amelia does everything in her power to follow the Babadook, but she doesn't really realize her greatest enemy is herself.
Yeah, that's right.
And I heard an interesting rumor that she actually wrote the Babadook story.
Oh, that she's the one who actually wrote the text that's in the book that they read.
Yeah, because when she
Oh,
to
interesting.
Niece's birthday party, um, her sister's friends ask her like, "What kind of stuff did you write back in the day?" She says, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
just like quizzes and magazines and like kid stuff."
Wow.
Um, and then there's a lot of other hints that I won't get into. You just have to listen to our episode of that. Can we really go in the deep dive and for that movie? But yeah, it's
Cool.
interesting.
That's a really great choice. I'm glad you mentioned that movie.
Yeah, for sure. What's your number 11?
So, my number 11 is a film that if you haven't seen the film, it might seem a little strange why this moment is up there for me. Um, the film itself hasn't aged as well as I remember loving it when I was a little much
Mm.
younger, maybe not a little kid, but and the film is called The Changeling, starring George C. Scott. It's a haunted house film, and
Yeah, I'm familiar with that movie. That's a good
when
movie.
yeah, and I really liked it. I loved it when I was a kid. I'm still very fond of it. But I will say there's one moment kind of in the middle of that movie where they've had a seance and the seance is a little strange, strikes him a little weird. But the moment I'm specifically referring to is when he listens back to the recording of that seance. And while he's sitting there just like cigarette in hand, and he's just flipping the recording back, and he hears the ghost's voice on the recording, and he keeps listening back to it, and then it transfixes to where it's like actually showing you some things like from the ghost's perspective and everything. But what's so brilliant about the scene is that when it comes back, his reaction, George C. Scott is such an amazing actor, but his reaction is so believable to me, because his basic reaction is just kind of a stunned shock, that then he just stands up, tries to move a couple of feet, and then just faints and collapses. The whole sequence is really unnerving because of how believably it's played. It's not sensationalized, and that moment still has a power to get under my skin, even though other parts of the movie don't land as substantially as they did for me
Mm,
when I first saw it so many years ago, and have loved it for many years. Still very fond of it, but that scene specifically, the recording of the seance, still just really drives me nuts.
mm.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's an awesome moment.
Um, yeah, that's a really good movie. That's actually Nev Campbell's favorite horror movie of all time.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
That's funny because he doesn't really like horror movies a whole lot.
Right,
But
right.
that's more like a classy horror movie. That's not really like bloody and
Yeah,
like a lot of jump scared.
it's definitely more accessible for people who don't typically like horror movies or what they think are horror movies. Changeling
Yeah.
would be more accessible for somebody like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of science stalling, I feel like that's like the classic movie for people that don't like horror movies. That they like
Hmm.
that's like one they like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, what's your number 11?
Mine is gonna be from my favorite horror movie of all time, Psycho, and it has to be
Hey!
yeah, it has to be when Norman takes Mother down to the fruit cellar
Ooh,
and everything
yes.
coming out before that because he just sets a really good kind of mystery where like the sheriff is asking Norman about the disappearance of the detective,
Hmm.
and then like there's this whole thing about like Sam, the main or Marion Crane's boyfriend asked about, oh, like, didn't he see Mother up there? And then like the sheriff was like, no, like she's been dead for several years, and she
Oh
been
man.
buried in she was buried in Green Lawn Cemetery for 10 years.
Yep.
And then the sheriff says, well, if that woman's up there is Mrs. Bates, then who's buried in Green Lawn Cemetery?
Ooh.
And then this draws you closer into this strange tale of murder. And
Yeah.
it cuts to Norman, who realizes that Sarah's chamber is onto him, and he goes up to the stairs to bring his mom down into the fruit cellar. And now this is especially creepy if you know the twist, because you know that this woman is dead at this point.
Oh yes.
And
Ooh,
then
so
her
chilling.
voice is creepy. She says, "You think I'm fruity, right? You think I'm fruity,
Oh man.
man."
That's so awesome. Well, like you said for when I mentioned Silence of the Lambs, Psycho is gonna come up later in my list
Mm,
as well. So that's
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, and this is a classic example of how, like, Hitchcock could capture and hook an audience through an entire runtime of a movie.
Absolutely. It's a brilliant film. It's still an amazing film so many years later. Like more than 50 years later.
Mm,
It's still just such an amazing movie.
yep.
So yeah, it's awesome. More than 60 years later actually.
Yeah.
Shaved off a decade there, but
Boy
uh
best friend is his mother.
oh man, that's so awesome. I have to mention this. We just recently visited Universal Studios, and right
Mm,
now they have the 60th anniversary
nice.
of the theme park, and they let you for a small period get off of the tram if you take the Universal Studios
Mm,
tour, and you get to walk right by Bates Motel, which is
yeah.
really cool.
Which is
Um,
funny because that's not the original Bates Motel Psycho House.
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
it's from this. It's from 3, I think.
Yes, it is the
Yeah.
one they used. It is the one they used in three. I don't think it's the one they used in two as well.
Mm.
But it's definitely the one they used in three.
Yeah, and then the one in the
Um,
Bates Motel TV show, they rebuilt it in Canada.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
that makes sense because, like, if you're doing, like, an ongoing TV series like that, you don't wanna constantly close that portion like, a big portion
absolutely.
of the tram tour that people, like, come from miles to see,
Yeah, absolutely,
all the
absolutely.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally agreed. Totally agree. Um, so you ready for my number 10?
Yes.
Okay, so my number 10 um is scary for different reasons. A lot of like this is one of those honestly most of the moments in my list are rooted in like actual frights or actually something kind of nightmarish as it were, and this definitely fits. But this is one of those that just makes every part of you clench. Like if you're watching it, even
Mm,
as you're watching it, just all of you will tighten up. And that is very specifically the moment in the film Misery. You mentioned Misery in your
mm,
honorable mentions, but this is the moment in Misery, the scene from Misery, like one of the big ones that everybody talks about. It's where Paul Sheldon, played by James Caan, is on the bed and he has been getting better and he has been making his way out of his locked in little bedroom whenever she leaves the house, and she has discovered that he's been making his way out there, and in order to punish him, to kind of keep him in place, it is, if you've seen the movie, you know she does a thing
mm.
called hobbling to his legs.
God.
And it is yeah, like I said, it is just, watching it will make every part of you clench up, and it is quite unnerving, and it's still to this day has this visceral power. I think that whole
Mm.
movie is great. I think that whole
Oh,
movie is
yeah, I love that
excellent.
movie so much.
um but that particular scene just has a raw effectiveness to it that is unparalleled by many of its peers.
Yeah.
So yeah, the
Yeah, and
hobbling
it's
scene
set
from
to,
Misery.
Midnight Sonata.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yep.
Oh
Do,
my
do,
gosh.
do, 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 do.
Mm-hmm. Man,
Yeah, that's a
so
really
creepy.
disturbing scene. It's even worse in the book.
Yeah, in the book it's way worse because
Yeah,
I mean, she basically like almost takes his foot off.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you think he's crazy in the movie, which he is. She's batshit freaking insane in the book.
Yeah, she goes after one guy with a lawnmower, like,
Yes.
and like gets him. It's crazy. Yeah, it's
Yeah. Well,
nuts.
the worst
Way
part
more
about the
extreme.
book is like she captures a rat and like a mousetrap or whatever, and then shows Paul this, and
Mm-hmm.
basically compares him to the mouse.
It's, oh man, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
Annie Wilkes is one of the all-time great villains
oh
that
yeah.
Stephen King has ever come up with. It's amazing.
Yeah, and we definitely got a small fraction of that with the Bates performance or the Kathy Bates performance.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, see, if you ever read the book, you know she's even worse in in the book.
So much worse. So
Yeah.
much worse.
Um,
Um, what's your number 10?
my number 10 is what I would call my scariest scene, or like my scariest movie for a while for October
Okay.
Babadook, and that is going to be from Sam Raimi's The Evil Dad.
Ooh, nice.
Yep,
That
and
one
it's
didn't
gonna
make my list, so I'm glad you're mentioning
yeah,
it.
and it's gonna be the playing card scene when
Ooh.
Sally gets Linda to guess what playing card she's holding up,
Uh-huh.
kind of like in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And everything is normal until Linda, who no, is Cyril, who's looking out the window.
Cheryl's the Yeah, Cheryl's the one who's guessing the cards, right?
No, I think it's Linda guessing the cards because that's
Oh,
Ashley.
okay.
Yeah. So Cyril is the one looking out the window, and then she starts just guessing them.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly go, and she gets them right because Linda's not getting them right. So she's getting them, and Bessie slowly goes into the like the really demonic voice, and she
Oh
goes,
man.
Jack of diamonds, Jack of clubs, and then she turns around real quickly to reveal that she's possessed by a deadite.
Oh Lord.
And then she said, "Why have you disturbed our sleep? Awaken us from our ancient slumber. You will die like the others before you. One by one, we'll take you."
Oh my gosh, it's so creepy.
Well,
So
I think what makes it
creepy.
so creepy is I like the kind of homemade kind of quality.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, to this.
very
Like,
guerrilla filmmaking. It's
yeah.
really impressive. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and this well, there's a term that that will describe a lot of horror movies. And this is a classic one of this term, and the term called "fuck around to find out." Because you're in a creepy cabin when like a porch swing like just hits like the house super
Oh
high,
yeah,
and
and just
then
pounding with that big echo. Oh
yes, and then like you're having dinner, and then just like the basement door just flies open, and then you go in there. There's a Hill Hot Have Eyes poster,
yeah.
cut in half, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's a book called Necronomicon Ex Mortis, which is bound by human skin and rendered in human blood.
Man.
That where this recording that's connected to this book, who from this guy that inspired this book before, Dr. Nobi, tells you that if you read this book, you will be possessed by demons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a classic Ever Ran to Find Out movie.
Yeah, it really is. I love that description for it because
Yeah,
that's exactly what the Evil Dead is. Pretty
yeah,
much the whole franchise. Oh, that's
yeah.
great. Oh, I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
this scared the absolute shit out of me when I
Oh,
first
I can
watched it.
imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I knew about the Evil Dead. I heard about it watching the behind the scenes from like the Spider-Man movies, but yeah, I did not know what to expect, and I knew a little bit about it. Like it was like this crazy gory movie, but this part in particular like scared the crap out of me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It earns its reputation for sure.
Hmm. But what is your number nine?
Hey, so I worry that my number nine may be the like I worried when I was making this list. I was like, oh man, I bet I'm gonna be stealing one of Drew's. So I will just go ahead and rip the band-aid off. Um, my number nine starts with a phone call. And the phone call, when they pick up, it starts very, very simply. They just ask, who's there, and I forget the exact opening dialogue, but the iconic line that would launch a franchise and reinvigorate a subgenre is, "What's your favorite scary movie?"
Yeah, it's not on my
Uh,
list.
oh, is it not? Oh
Yeah,
man, so I know you're a big Ghostface fan, but yeah,
yeah,
so the
like
open.
well, none of the screams are on my list. Just to let you know.
Oh, cool. Okay, all right. So I'm
Yeah, because
glad we're
they're
getting to
fun
talk about
movies,
it.
but like none of them like scare me to this point where like I will never forget any of these scares.
Sure, sure. Well,
But one
that
of them
I
did
can.
make honorable mentions, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So honestly, the opening that opening phone call when Drew Barrymore gets that first one, I can still remember. I think I shared this when we were actually on the Scream franchise when we covered it
mm,
on my show. But functionally, like I can still remember sitting up in that room from when I was a teenager, watching that moment and just jaw dropped, being like, what in the world am I seeing? And just so stuck with me. I still think those opening 10 minutes, if they were just a regular short film,
mm,
is a completely powerful piece of cinema. It's very scary, it's very effective.
mm,
And I feel like the franchise had, ups and down returns based on individual moments. I like pretty much all of the
right.
installments in the franchise except for maybe part three. But
Oh, I love
I
part three. It's so much
oh,
fun.
it's just so silly.
Yeah,
Um, but I feel like that one moment, that singular moment with her answering that phone call is just it's just iconic. It's just incredible. So
oh
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So Drew Barrymore as Casey answering the phone in the first like 10 minutes of Scream.
Yeah,
That's my
well,
number nine.
that's a good one. That's so iconic. That's like, I mean, that's inarguably like, in my opinion, no shadow of a doubt, best horror opening of all time.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Such a
as
wonderful way.
we speak, I'm actually with Eric. We're working on a screen fan film that's going to be kind of an ode to that opening title scene a little
You
bit.
sure are. That's very
Yeah,
exciting.
and
Yes.
you're going to be in it.
I am.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
really
yeah.
eager.
Yeah,
It's
you're
gonna
gonna
be
have a little
cool.
voice cameo, which is gonna be fun.
I love it. No, I'm so excited.
Yep. So my
Um,
number nine, another
yeah, what is
slasher
it?
like yours, a movie that actually inspired Scream a little bit.
Mm.
1998's Halloween.
Hey,
Yep.
okay.
And it's gonna be when Bob goes down the stairs to the kitchen to get his
Oh.
girlfriend some beers, and he sees the back door is open.
Oh man.
He looks around, and he sees if his friends are pranking him, and then he opens the door. I think he opens a door, like the door going to a different
Hmm.
room, because it's
Yep.
like the back door, like going outside. That that was open,
Right, right.
and then all of a sudden, Michael
Oh,
Myers jumps up, grabs him by the throat, slams him up against the cabinets behind him, picks him up, and then pins him with a knife on
oh,
on the cabinets, and it cuts
so
to a
awesome.
wide shot, and it's Myers looking at Bob hanging there, and Michael Myers with the classic head tilt,
Hmm.
like the artist checking out his masterpiece.
It's so great. At that moment is so chilling. So
Yeah,
perfect.
and it's not necessarily like it's a jump scare. The part that always gets me is the head tilt. That freaks me
Oh
out
yeah.
every time.
Like a
And
puzzled dog. It's great.
well, the thing about it is people say that music really helps out like creepy, scary moments.
Hmm.
I think in some instances like this, the lack of music.
Yeah, because it's completely quiet in that moment.
Yeah,
Totally silent.
yeah, all you hear is like crickets and
Hmm.
like ambient noise that you
Oh,
don't
it's
hear.
great.
There's no actual music. And a lot of like the birds are like that. Don't Look Now is like that.
Yep,
So I
absolutely.
think a lot of time when sometimes like no music could be really effective. After the siren scene, the psycho, there's no music. When it gently just laying there dead.
Yeah. All you hear is the water running. That's it. It's like
Yeah.
you get this big burst of musical enhancement for the scene, and then the quiet with all the natural sound effects
Mm.
kind of adds to the haunting nature of it. Like something has happened, and then it all dissipates. It's yeah, it's a very effective filmmaking tool.
Oh yeah, for sure. So if you don't have anything else to say about that, let's get to number eight.
No, we're good. So my number eight, if you've never, if you or listeners have never seen this film, this is a major spoiler, major, major spoiler. And so I'm going to enter into it a bit carefully.
Mm.
I will mention the film first and give the context for it. So if you have never seen this film, then just know I am about to spoil the literal ending of it. But it is 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes, I've seen
Um,
it.
so, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So, listeners, if you have not seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I am literally about to spoil the ending. So,
Yeah,
just be
yeah, yeah,
warned.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Skip forward.
exactly. Skip forward if you do not want to have the ending of this film spoiled. But yeah, that moment still stays with me so much. Donald Sutherland's character, he's our hero for the entirety of the film, and we get to this point to where we know some time has passed, and we hope that he has been able to avoid being turned into a pod person, being able to
Mm.
avoid the aliens taking him over, and he's learned how to be among them just by showing no emotion. So it's completely conceivable for the first like 5 minutes of this particular scene that he's just passing along, that he's just playing along as one of them. But that's when suddenly he encounters an old friend of his who has not been turned, and as she approaches him in the hopes of finding some rapport, finding some camaraderie, finding someone to join her in this, his face distorts and pushes to that guttural scream, and his finger points out at her. It's such a visceral moment, and it just
Oh
has
yeah,
such a
for sure.
shocking power to it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that's one of those moments like the Psycho Sour scene, like the one of us from Freaks,
Yes,
where people
right.
will do that. Like he may not know horror movies or know what that movie that's from, but they'll still do it.
Yeah, yeah, that moment even if you don't have the
Yeah.
the context for it. Yeah,
Well, like
exactly.
speaking of freaks, I had a guy that I used to work with who he's not a big horror guy, but he always was in the appropriate moments will always say, one of us, not knowing the points.
That's
Um,
crazy.
but
Yeah.
people will do that finger point from this movie that you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Or they'll
absolutely.
do the So yeah, it's one of those moments that people will do, not knowing what
Absolutely.
movie it's from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really good moment. Speaking of Donald Sutherland from the 70s.
Yes.
Yeah. Number eight. My number eight is gonna
Yes. Hit
be
me with it.
from a Jordan Peele movie.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Um, about aliens. Um, called Nope, and it's gonna be Gordy's death.
Wow.
Yep, it's
Uh,
gonna be Gordy's death.
ooh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you want to talk about being on the edge of your seat the entire time, and then there's
Sure.
that final climax. And um, so what this whole scene's about? There's a sitcom called Gordy's Home or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
Gordy's House, about this chimp, this family that adopts this chimp,
Right.
and it's like the second season that they're filming, and it's Gordy's birthday, and it's all going well, until like the family opens a box of balloons, and one of the balloons pops. It like cuts black, and the balloon pops.
Yep.
And then Gordy goes ape shit,
Oh.
literally.
Yeah, like literally. Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's
it
a
did.
champ, but whatever. He goes
Sure, sure.
crazy, and the camera pans through the destroyed film set as Gordy beats one of the actresses that plays the mother to death.
Oh, ooh.
Jupiter Washington, who is the young kid in this show. Um, and it cuts to Jupe's point of view. And then the actor that plays the father on this show comes to calm Gordy down. And he tries to run, and then Gordy follows him and kills him.
But yeah.
And
Oh
then
man.
Gordy goes up to Jupe, and they try to go in for a fist bump. Um, to try to connect. Then, boom!
Oh, it's so
Blood
scary.
splatter everywhere. And you find
Yeah.
out that animal control comes in and straight up kills Gordy.
Oh man.
And this was one of the few times when, like, all of a sudden, the entire theater just died.
Yeah.
Man, it was crazy.
It's so shocking, and it's also kind of like a gut drop as well, because you recognize like,
Right.
oh, this is just an animal. Now, I'm not saying that the animal can, be allowed to continue to run amok,
Mhm.
but it's so that's a powerful scene for its moral implications as well.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
very effective the way that it's shot.
Yeah,
It's
that whole
incredibly
movie
creepy.
about, like, animal control and exploitation is really
Absolutely.
interesting. And it's just this classic, like, building that string, pulling that string
Hmm.
as tightly as you can. And honestly, I've heard the best, and this is gonna be a little crude, but I've heard the best explanation I've ever heard about suspense in any movie is it's kinda
Hmm.
like sex. You don't wanna blow your load too early. You wanna
Wow.
build that out as soon as method possible until you get to the big moment. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm still a virgin, but yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, that's the best. That's how suspense is. You want to build it up as slowly as possible, and then at the right moment.
Let the payoff happen. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it as PG-13 as possible. What's your number seven?
Okay, so my number seven is a film. I'll go ahead and say what film I'm talking to. And if
Hmm.
you've seen this film, it's very hard to shake off. It's very hard to forget. It's the kind of film that some people put forward as like an endurance test for horror fans. It's like, okay, well, you're a big horror fan, but have you seen Takashi Miike's Audition? Have you
No,
seen Audition? Um,
no,
and so and so Audition is a very um it's a film that is split into kind of two parts. And the first part of the film, if you're watching it, you'll be like, why is this a horror film? Like, I don't understand. Like, why is this a horror film? So I am about to spoil something from the middle of the film. There's a scene basically after this happens. It just gets worse and worse and worse, and truly nightmarish. It's one of the most nerve wracking pieces of film I've ever seen. But the film is basically about a man who's kind of auditioning for women to be his love interest, and the first half of the film kind of plays out like a kind of romantic drama. Like it's very sort of light and airy. There's a bit of an ominous tone in places, but nothing that would make you think horror film.
Mm,
Well, he zeroes in this man zeroes in on this one girl, and there's this moment. I won't spoil too much around the context in case you see the film, because it's definitely worth seeing. It's just it's a lot. um there's this moment where you see her and it's super creepy. It's just completely creepy. She's just sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor, and her head is bowed, this long raven black hair
mm,
hanging down, and she's so still. And she's still for like this extended period of time. And then the phone begins to ring, and you see her for this long period of time just still sitting there. And then the phone begins to ring, and her apartment is kind of sparsely populated, and there's like a sack of laundry over in the corner, and there's not a lot of furniture.
mm,
And the film just lingers on this moment with her in the frame. She's near her laundry room, and there's this big laundry basket, and the phone keeps this big like laundry sack, and the phone keeps ringing, and the phone keeps ringing. And that's when all of a sudden the laundry sack moves and begins to like flip around. And that's when you
mm,
realize somebody is in it. It's like somebody has been captured and put into it. And right after, like from there, I won't say everywhere
mm,
that the film goes, but I will say, oh my God, it is rightfully called like an endurance test
mm.
for horror fans, because when you begin to find out like what is going on,
Yes, I'm
and
aware of some of the moments.
oh my God, it is so nerve wracking.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so that moment where the laundry sack is revealed to not be packed with
Mm.
laundry is and it's high up there, man. It ranked from number 7 for me.
Oh yeah,
Stayed with
I would
me.
imagine.
Still up there, because
Well,
that moment took me so by shock when I first saw that
yeah,
film.
well, especially when the whole first part of the movie is a little ominous, but not necessarily like a horror movie. And then that,
Hmm.
yeah, I can imagine that. Like,
Oh, it's so jarring.
so I got a quick question. Did you watch this movie for the first time, not knowing anything about it?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
When
so
I
yeah,
saw,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
then it would
w-
give you the best of that because
yeah,
I would watch it and then it wouldn't scare me as much. It'd probably disturb me, but it wouldn't like freak me
yeah.
out like that.
Yeah, when I watched Audition, the only thing that I knew was I knew some people at the time that I had spoken to who were also horror fans said they could not make it through it, that they had to turn it off. Which,
Mm.
when I hear that, I'm like, okay, challenge accepted. So
Okay, Neil
I
Patrick Harris from How I Met Your Mother.
so I went ahead and watched it just out of pure curiosity. And sure enough, like I said, the first hour disarms you tremendously, but boy, that
Right.
back hour really delivers on the other front. It's a powerful film, very
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah, for sure. I can like I can imagine that freaking you out, not knowing anything about it.
Sure.
Um, Now I will say just one thing. The only other thing I'll say, not seeing the movie, is as you know, that two of my other co-hosts, Eric and Jackson, have started an extreme horror series.
Yes.
And I told them that
Yes.
one day, you have to let me watch live on camera audition.
Oh wow. And
Yeah, that'd
like
be
have an actual viewing, a recording while you watch it.
yeah,
Oh
that's
wow.
gonna be
That
so fun. I hope I get
it would be fun.
yeah,
Yeah, it
I
would
hope
be
I get
fun.
you so many views. 'Cause I'm probably gonna ask like the biggest bits ever. And you
Well,
know
it's
what?
yeah.
I don't mind self-deprecating, deprecating myself because I
Well,
know that
sure. I mean,
yeah, yeah, I know
yeah.
I'm gonna be freaked out.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has that effect, and the film is nearly relentless in
Mm,
that back half of the film. Nearly relentless.
yeah.
It's so intense. Yeah.
Alright.
So Audition. What's your number 7?
So my number 7 is from another M. Night movie called
Ooh, nice.
The Sixth Sense. And I had another moment in our favorite horror movie moment
Mm.
list. And so you remember, if you remember, oh no, actually, you had a moment. I didn't have a moment. Mine was signs.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I told the story where I recorded this movie on TV because my sister had like a dance recital that
Mhm.
night, and so we got back from that and it was super late at night, and I was told that there was a twist at the end of this movie, and I was really excited to get to it.
Mhm.
And so so it's like 11, 12 o'clock. It gets to the scene um after Colt just tells um Dr. Malcolm Crowe that he sees dead people,
Oh, man.
and then there's several shots of empty room to indicate to the audience that that there's nobody else in the house.
Right.
Then it comes to Cole, nervously trying to exit his bedroom, afraid that he might see a ghost. He quickly runs across the hallway to go use the bathroom, and then it shows a shot of the thermostat dropping. What was interesting is earlier in the movie, Tony Collette is cleaning up the house, like doing laundry or whatever.
Right.
He adjusted the thermostat so that it goes back to that.
Yeah.
And then there's a really creepy shot. It got me this time watching it, because I've seen this movie quite a few times, of a ghost walking right past
Mm.
Cole as he's using the restroom.
Yeah.
And then he hears this. He goes into the kitchen and he sees the ghost woman being abused by her husband.
Oh
It
my gosh.
freaked me out because
Yeah.
that's one of the scariest things in any movie is walking to a room and seeing something that you don't want to see. Like,
Yeah. It's so intense. So intense.
well, what was interesting was if you have the DVD from this movie and we go watch the special feature and you hear M Night talk about like his early, ambitions of being a filmmaker and what scared him as a child. It was this.
Yeah.
He talked about a moment where he was coming home with his family and the door was open and he was too scared to go into his house. So his dad goes in by himself and looks around the house to see if nobody was in there. And then M Night was just scared the entire time, like that
Man.
somebody was gonna be in his bedroom, like coming to get him.
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what started this. And I'm gonna air my dirty laundry here. I'll tell you
Okay.
what started this freaking this freaking thing that scared me with
Okay.
finding something. Dobby from Harry Potter.
Oh, really?
Yes, because back in the day when the first Scooby Doo movie came out, my mom took me and my cousin Alex to go see that.
Mhm.
And at the beginning, they did a trailer for Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter, and the
Yeah.
opening scene was Harry going to his bedroom to see Dobby jumping on his bed,
Wow.
and
Oh
it
my
freaked
gosh.
me. And Dobby's not a scary character at all.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, he's like he's a menace for part of it, but becomes very lovable in the
Right, but he's
series.
not like
Yeah.
scary. But
Right, exactly.
good God, he scared me. And the thing's not scary now in Harry Potter, but like it's the idea of walking to your room and there's
Sure,
something
something
there.
being there. Yeah, yeah, especially like a creature. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
and that's in so many horror movies. Pet
Oh,
Cemetery, The Sixth Sense, The Birds,
absolutely.
yeah, The
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
Shining.
great.
With something told me a scene like that in The Shining is about to come up.
Ooh,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe
Um
Maybelline.
so you ready for my number 6?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a film that I still love. I love this film so much. Some people don't totally consider this a horror film, and that's fair. I definitely consider it a horror film. Some people consider it more science fiction with just some scary parts to it or some scary elements to it, but I think it's directly a horror film. Um, and it's Annihilation, the
It's a
Alex
good
Garland
one.
film. Yeah, I love that film. Got to see that film in the theater, and I've loved it from first viewing. But I tell you, man, this late in the game, it's hard to get me the way
Mm,
this film got me. We have noticed, and perhaps spoiler alert, this is the most recent film on my list.
okay.
And
I kind of figured
it
with what you just said.
yeah, because it is rare for a film to really just viscerally create frights in me like this does. But let me tell you, the scene where that bear, where they're all trapped, and that bear comes and begins to they've been trapped by one of their own, who is interrogating them because she thinks that they're turning on her, and then this beast enters into the house, and at first what's alarming them is they can hear the screams of their dead friend, and they think like, oh, they're here, they're alive, they've come, they've come back. And then when that bear comes up, and first of all, the bear has no real face, it's just skull, like the big
Mm,
body of the bear, but just like a skull of a bear. And when it opens its mouth, and because it's a mutant from this, if you haven't seen Annihilation takes place in this kind of very alien kind of, it's on Earth, but it's this kind of an alien thing called the Shimmer has affected all of the landscape and has merged different plants and animals into unique mutations. Well, this bear, when it opens its mouth, instead of a bear's growl, it's its last victim's scream. And I tell you, that whole
that's
sequence,
scary.
oh, that whole sequence just got me, man. In the theater, it got me more than many, many things have since. There have been plenty of films that I've seen that have been
Mm.
very scary, very effective. Nothing has quite stayed with me like that bear scene in Annihilation. So yeah, that's my number six. Still
Yes,
has an effect.
yeah, that was an interesting movie. It was this tone of it was something I wasn't expecting. 'Cause I was expecting
Hmm.
something maybe more like Aliens, like kind of scary but
Sure.
impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Due to the poster. But yeah, it's very kind of slow.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
it is. It's more deliberate than you would
philosophical.
expect it to be. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, cool. Yeah, that's a
Uh,
good movie, man.
yeah. What is your number six?
So I originally had the raptor scene for my number six,
Ooh, okay,
but then I
okay,
realized, well, it's a great scene, but it didn't necessarily like always stick out to me.
okay.
Ever since the first time I saw it, it's gonna be another Steven Spielberg scene.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
And this scene is so scary that it ruined an entire franchise. And that
Uh-oh.
franchise is Indiana Jones. It's a
Oh
great
man.
scene.
Okay. Yeah.
It's so scary just how blatant it. Like he just made Spielberg just made this decision of him escaping a nuclear explosion in a refrigerator. And the fact that it's ruined the whole entire franchise. I can't even watch them anymore because of that.
Wow. Well, listen, I that scene is absurd upon absurd upon absurd. It is
Yep.
ridiculous.
Hey,
I totally
Reed.
hear you.
Hey, Reed. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
I figured. I was like,
Yeah,
I didn't know. I was like, okay, surely that this is leading up to a joke because that's not it.
yeah.
But I will tell you that moment when he's just absolutely like survives a
Mm,
nuclear blast by being inside of a lead refrigerator. I mean, there's jumping the shark and there's like blowing up your own franchise.
yes.
So yes,
I actually do love that scene. I don't get why people have an issue with it. It's an Indiana Jones movie. Like it's the things happen.
yeah, it's perhaps no more ridiculous than in Temple of Doom when the cart like leaps off the track,
Mm.
covers a canyon, and leaps right back on the track to go to go rolling.
Oh, that's not even that great. That's not even that unbelievable. What was unbelievable in that movie is the fact that they fall out of a plane in an inner tube and nobody flies out of that thing.
Yes,
And you want to tell me the nuke in this phrase is unrealistic? Come on now.
that's
Come on.
true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Um,
Um,
but my
all right. So
actual
what's your
number,
real number? Yeah, what's your real
yeah.
number
So
six?
it is actually from a Steven Spielberg movie.
Okay.
Um, and it's Ready Player One. I mean, which is terrible. I can't. I'll stop. I'll stop. I stop.
Okay. I'm like, I
Um,
really want to hear your number six.
it is from his version of War of the Worlds,
Okay.
the diner scene,
Ooh, yeah, that's a good
because
one.
this scene really emphasizes what's scary about this movie, and it's not the aliens, it's humans,
Hmm.
because they crash their car. Tom Cruise crashed his car into a light post in front of a diner, and this whole mob of people are like crashing into the car and trying to like grab like Dakota Fanning as he's screaming. And the shot that fucks me up every time I think about this movie is the guy like grabbing the glass and pulling it out. That
Yeah.
scene scared the crap out of me the first time I watched it.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. It's been so long since I've
Mhm.
seen that film, and that scene still stands
Yeah,
out to
it's
me.
it's a
Yeah,
good movie. It's not. I mean, the ending kind of sucked when Robbie dies, but I generally like the movie. I think it's a good
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
But I think it's funny because anybody that knows me knows I have a small pain tolerance level,
Mm,
and I'm thinking to myself, "Wow, you're desperate to get some transportation if you're sticking your bare hands into glass to get a
yeah.
car." 'Cause if
Oh
that was
yeah.
me, as soon as that glass penetrates my hand, I'd be like, "Ah!"
Nope, forget it. I'm out. Yep, done.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that scene, that shot in particular. The whole scene is freaky, but that shot in particular with the guy upon the glass,
Sure.
oh my god, I never thought I would see that in the movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, ooh.
The chills.
Yeah. It's only gonna get worse, Lackey. It's gonna
Okay,
get
I
worse
know.
from here.
This is the top five. This is the
Yeah.
top five. Uh,
Doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo.
the final countdown.
Yep.
So, all right. So my number five is we knew it was going to show up somewhere.
Mm.
And it's from The Shining. There are several moments from The Shining that you could point to, but when I went by my criteria, I was trying to think of like what instills the most dread, the most horror, the most sort of disturbing manipulation that this hotel exerts upon the family that's staying there, and it has to be the woman in the tub,
Oh, you
in
took
that hotel
mine.
room.
You
Oh,
took mine.
sorry. Oh no. Oh
Yep.
no. So yeah, well, I won't say too much about it. I'll let you have your moment there, but I just we can talk about it together when you
Yeah.
get to yours. So my number five is the woman in the tub
Okay.
from The Shining. So we'll talk about it further when we get to your spot.
Okay, so my number 5 is from David Fincher's Seven. What's in the box? It's not that
Ooh,
scene, but I just like saying that.
sure.
Um,
Okay.
but it's actually the interrogation scene of the Lusson victim.
Ooh, that one's
Yeah,
tough to watch.
yeah.
Tough to watch.
And I won't say what it is because it is literally the most disturbing scene
Yeah.
I've
Oh
ever
yeah.
seen in a horror in any movie. Like it is so fucked up. And I'm sorry I'm
Yeah.
saying that word a lot, but this kind of video or episode like requires the F bomb a few times.
That moment is new levels of disturbing. I
Yes.
have so seven shows up in my list when we get there. I have a story to tell you about watching the movie in
Yeah.
general. It's not about that scene, but just the movie in
Yeah.
general. But
Well, I
yeah,
got a
yeah.
story that's coming up after I talk about this scene. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
because what makes this scene even scarier and more disturbing is one of the victims actually survives this and is traumatized by this, probably for life. Like, there's no way
Yeah.
you're getting past this.
Oh my
If you
God.
know, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And
Oh
what makes it
yes.
even worse, is that when Detective Mills, Brad Pitt character, asked the sex club owner, if you like what goes on in his business, and he says, "No, I don't." But that's life, isn't it? I'm like, "Oh
Ooh.
my god, dude!
It's messed up. It's so messed
Oh
up,
my
dude.
god!"
Yeah. It's completely jacked.
Yeah, and some
Yeah.
people say that the sloth sin is scary, and it is. It very much is. But I'm not even kidding. I watched this movie the first time, like I was in my bed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I literally, when this guy is describing what happened, like the victim, it was describing
Yeah.
what happened. Like my whole body started to shake violently. Like it was
Yeah.
just so scary.
Oh,
And
it's
that's what I love
super
about
intense.
And that's what I love about what David Fincher does in this movie is he shows what he wants you to see, but he makes a lot of the stuff more psychological.
Yeah.
So
Oh
he
yeah.
shows the particular disturbing item, and you're like, "Oh my god, what is that?" And then he's like, "For this one particular moment, that's like the worst one,
Oh
arguably.
Lord.
Like
It's so
he makes
terrible.
one of the victims survive and is traumatized by it." Oh,
Oh,
oh man, oh man, that is just sick.
it's
And that's just
terrible.
genius. And I know I said David Fincher. I mean, that just is, I know he probably didn't write it with somebody else. That man,
Andrew
you ever,
Kevin Walker wrote it, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that man is a sick man in both the best way and worst way possible
Yeah,
because
super
that was his
intense.
goal to freak out the audience.
Oh yeah, yeah. And he 100% succeeded. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, all right, it's a time for my number four.
Yes.
Okay. My number four. I debated there were like three moments from this movie that I could have picked. This is one of the greatest horror films ever made. Um, and just because it's there are some amazing horror films that
Mm,
don't quite make my list, not because they're not amazing horror films, but just they don't have an individual moment. It's the total package from them. But this is one that has not only as a total package, but also lots of individual moments. But talking about just the tension, the ratcheting tension, and an absolutely bananas, terrifying payoff, I have to go with The Thing,
mm.
specifically the blood test scene from The Thing.
There's a lot
It
of
is,
crossover in this episode from the last one that we did.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Because because a lot of times the reason like when I blend it between like
Mm.
favorite and scariest, a lot of those things coincide.
Oh
There's
yeah, for
two
sure.
there's two big ones that I'm just like, man, I love these movies so much, but they're not gonna show up on this list. But the blood test from The Thing, man, it's just it is one of the absolute
Mm.
greatest suspense scenes in all of cinema history.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. So yeah,
Yeah, that
that's it.
that's a yeah, that's definitely a movie for me where it's like a tradition to watch because like the last like couple winters we have at least 1 year of like complete snow.
Ooh, that'd be a
Yeah.
great movie to watch in the snow. Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that and the next movie that we're gonna talk about was we'll get to my number four, which is The Signing, the bathtub lady.
Nice. Yes. Why do you
Um,
love the bathtub lady so much?
well, I'll tell you just real quick, and then we'll kind of analyze the scene.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Like in the last list video or episode where we talked about the the give me the bat windy scene and how that me and my
Yes.
mom like to interact with that scene or interact um we have to do that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this one has a strange connection with my mom too
Oh wow. Okay.
because um a childhood movie of mine was Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
and I hated the Wicked Witch of the West. Her laugh scared me, her voice scared me, and my mom knew that. And
Sure.
as a kid, she would do that any chance that she would get.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And she even dressed up as that character 1 year for Halloween. Um,
Oh man.
and so hearing this old lady in this bathtub laugh just brought up memories of that.
Sure. Oh my gosh.
And I honestly cannot watch it. Every time I watch this scene, I've always skipped that scene because it freaked me out that much.
Yeah, I mean it's terrifying because it, from the very first moment until she finally like
Mm,
turns and manipulates him so like she draws him in
right.
and he's not even questioning like how did you get in this
Mm.
hotel and who are you or anything like that. He's just hypnotized by
Wait,
it.
well, it kind of goes back to that Black Swan scene in
Yeah.
my honorable
Mhm.
mentions where I said like it's both like scary and like erotic at the same time.
Oh yeah, and is intended because
Mm,
that's what the hotel's trying to do to Jack.
yeah.
And when that turn happens and she's completely made up
Mm,
and has all these sores on her body
mm.
and
Oh,
is just
man, that's
that
freaky.
oh it's so nightmarish and there's plenty of scenes in Stephen King's book The Shining
Mm,
that would not have translated as effectively to film, which is
mm,
why I think to a degree Stanley Kubrick kind of pivoted some of them.
mm.
But man, that scene, oh, it's so nightmarish and is, if memory
Right.
serves, is an almost direct translation from the book. But
Mm.
ooh, it's terrifying, absolutely
Yeah,
terrifying.
and I think the three things that make this scene super scary or effective is the constant heartbeat in the background. The
Yeah,
boom 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 boom. Um, everything is so clean, crisp, and perfect. Like this whole
yeah,
movie, because the Overlook is not a scary looking hotel per se.
right.
Like or it's not a creepy old rundown hotel like the Bates Motel or
Right.
the Amityville Horror House. It's like it's beautiful. And then the
It
Steadicam,
really is.
yeah, the Steadicam POV shot that makes you part of the movie.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I know Stephen King had his
Mm,
issues with it, and I kind of understand them, especially given the redemptive tone of his book. But it's still, it's a brilliantly constructed film. I've said before about Stanley Kubrick's The Shining that it is an amazing film and a terrible
mm.
adaptation because it doesn't really reflect the book almost at all in tone, spirit, or theme. But the film is a brilliant, brilliant construction. It's yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
but I feel like if anybody was going to deconstruct that story that Stephen King wrote, it was gonna be Kubrick. 'Cause Kubrick gives his
Hmm.
own flair. And
Yeah.
another example of um a filmmaker going against or no, let me start over. I think another example of a book that's one tone that an author is known for, where a filmmaker makes that adapts that book and does his own tone is Jurassic Park.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because Michael Crichton is his book is very scientific and
Hmm.
I want to say boring, but it's not as fun. It's very dark. Where
Yeah.
Spielberg is it's a scary movie, but it's very fun. It's a fun movie.
Spielberg zoned in on the adventure aspect of it. He was
Yes,
lightweight on
yes.
the science and technology and was more zoned into the adventure, which is present in the book,
Mhm.
but after long stretches of like scientific hanging it up. Now that having been said, I do love that book. I love Jurassic
Yeah,
Park.
I actually liked the
Uh,
book a lot more the second time when I read it last
yeah.
year for the 30th anniversary of the
Oh,
movie.
nice.
What is number 3?
Okay, so my number three, listen, these top three, there's going to be a couple of just like not surprises at
Mm,
all. And it's probably not surprising. My number three, if you've listened to me for any degree of time, we're going back to the Bates Motel, and my number three is the shower scene.
yep.
It is, yep, it is. For people who know me and know that like it was the first horror film that I remember watching,
Mhm.
I was 6 years old. It started my affection and my fascination with horror. And this shower scene specifically, just like did it for me. It was the whole film, but
Mhm.
that shower scene is just incredible. Left an indelible mark. Created my fandom for the genre, and just yeah, I love it so much. So yeah, it's my number three, the shower scene from
Cool,
Psycho.
man.
Yep. What is
Um,
your number three?
yeah, so I said that this one's gonna be brought up again, and it's gonna be Science of the Lambs.
Ooh, nice. Okay,
So
which moment?
it's gonna be when clearly Starling is trapped in Buffalo Bill's basement.
Man, I almost considered mentioning
Yeah,
that one.
and
Hannibal
I
Lecter's
was
escape overrode it for me, but man, that
oh
moment
yeah.
is so great.
Yeah, that's probably like a favorite horror movie moment that I completely forgot about that. Like, if I
Mhm.
can go back to that episode, I would completely, I would remove one and put that in there because that was so genius.
Yeah.
But I was home alone when I watched this scene, and I knew that he ends up in the basement. I didn't know anything else about that
Ooh.
scene. So when the FBI goes up to what you think is Buffalo Bill's house as a flowery delivery service that they're disguising as, um, and they ring the doorbell and it keeps cutting back to his dungeon. Um, and then you find out that they're at the wrong house.
Oh,
And when they
it's
buzz
so
into the
intense.
house that they're at, and it's completely empty, and then you see that Buffalo Bill's house is like a mess. And then that close up of Jack Crawford, and he says, Clearly, I'm like, holy shit. She is all alone in that house with Buffalo Bill.
It's crazy.
And then just
Wild.
the build up when that whole conversation. And you have the classic line where Buffalo Bill goes, all right, what's your great big fat Rudy?
Oh man. Oh, it's so
Yeah,
creepy.
man. And then they eventually make it down to the basement. And and the lights are turned off.
Hmm.
And she's feeling her way throughout the basement. And then Buffalo Bill has his goggles on,
Yeah.
and it's very much like the Cyclops. 'cause her dad
Yeah.
Halsey, and he's trying to get her, and I'm seriously thought that Jodie Foster was gonna die.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then she hears a noise, I can't remember what it was, and then she turns around quickly and shoots him.
If I'm remembering correctly, it's the click.
Oh,
It's
yes, yes,
because he's about to shoot her, I think, and
yeah,
it's the click of the gun, and then she whirls around and takes him out before he pulls the trigger, if my memory serves.
mm,
But oh man, it's so effective. That
God,
whole like taunting thing he does, it's just
yeah.
oh man, it's super creepy.
Yeah,
Super
I
creepy.
know that Science of the Lambs has gone, particularly Buffalo Bill has gone in a lot of controversy over the years, and I totally get
Yes.
that. I
Yeah.
totally get that. But let's face it, he's creepy. He's
Oh, he's super
scary.
creepy. Yeah.
Like
He's yeah,
I know the vast majority of the trans community is not like that at
at
all.
all. No,
But that
at
guy's
not at
creepy.
all.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's oh yeah, and I think that's why is just the portrayal of being like indicative is part
Mm.
of what is part of what creates some of that controversy.
Yeah,
If
and I get
taken in
and I get I totally get representation.
yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
if you go
Absolutely.
in and that well, like I've mentioned this before, like that movie introduced me to a lot of stuff I did not know about. That was the first
Yeah.
time I actually ever heard the C word in a movie, like ever.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah,
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 what
yeah.
was funny
Mm.
was I thought that character was saying the word but removed the N, so cut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
Wow.
then I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
watched the scene again with subtitles, and I'm like, "What's that about?"
Uh,
Looked it up, I'm like, "Oh."
Like, oh yeah, that's not nice.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't say that word. I think that word
No.
happily. I did feel icky saying that
Yeah.
word.
Some words have a power that you don't want to deploy. I
Yeah,
agree.
but,
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, like, I think if people that maybe have that sort of, like, transphobic mindset already from, like, how they were raised or, like, their environment or whatever, I think if they see this movie, I think definitely they can definitely kinda associate trans community with that.
Yeah, and
But,
and that's
but
really
I
unfortunate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I will watch it, and I get that it is a complete misrepresentation of that community, and he's not
sure.
even really trans, I think.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
He's well, because that's part
He's
of the
clearly mentally
difficulty.
disturbed, and that's n and
Yeah.
he's not a bad person because he's trans, he's a bad person because he's mentally disturbed.
And yeah, and that's part of the difficulty with all of
Mm,
this. Like even going back to Psycho, people with dissociative identity disorder, like Norman Bates has, there's a long history in horror films of misrepresenting different
mm,
as dangerous, and I can sit with that tension. I can
mhm.
understand that like okay, different does not mean dangerous. And so many of these
Right, but
films that are
Norman kinda, earned your sympathy a bit.
Yes, he does,
Right.
especially in that scene between him and her where he's talking about, the private traps and everything.
Mm.
Um,
Well,
but I
also, he was filling a void that he caused.
yes,
Right.
yes. But in general, just broadly speaking, the concept of different as scary is something
Mm,
that horror has trafficked in a great deal.
mm,
And I do feel like we learn more, or like we know more
mm,
now. We understand different, and I do think that horror in the last few years has made a conscious effort to try to course correct on some of those things. Still, we have these films that, despite their problematic interiors, have a distinct power, and I think it's
mm.
important to recognize the problematic danger. At the
Right.
same time, we can recognize the value of the construction and
Mhm.
what it's doing very effectively. Not everybody can hold those things in tension, and that's totally fair. I'm
Yeah.
somebody who can recognize to a degree, like, hey, this is very problematic and to a degree harmful, and recognize that while also appreciating the storytelling and the
Mm.
craftsmanship that went into cultivating some of these moments that we're describing.
Yeah, like, Silence of the Lambs is a great movie. Just that part. Like, I
Yeah.
think yeah, 'cause obviously I mean, I don't know a lot of trans people. It's
Mm.
mostly because I have a hard time making friends, but I've watched videos and I've done research, so I obviously know. that like
Yeah.
most people in the LGBTQ plus community, they just want to just live their life like normal people, like everybody else. It's
Yes.
just to happen to have a different sexual identity or have, be attracted to the same sex or whatever. It's just,
Yeah. They just
yeah,
want to live their lives like everybody else gets to live their lives. Yep.
yeah, yeah. I just
Exactly.
don't get that whole hate kind of thing. But
Mhm.
that's a whole topic we can get into.
um,
um, which is number two.
so so my number two might be surprising, not that it's on the list, but that it's
Mm,
number two. My number two, I put the exorcism scene from The Exorcist. Um,
okay.
so of course it's going to be on here. Exorcist is my favorite movie. Blah blah blah. I've talked about The Exorcist lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. And I don't mean to blah 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 to be dismissive. I've talked about it so much. But seriously, that scene, pretty much that whole run, the scene where they're initiating the Roman ritual of exorcism and culminating, of course, in the power of Christ compels you. That whole extended
Power of
sequence.
Christ compels you. The power of Christ
Yeah.
compels you.
And as much as it's been memeified and as much as it's been parodied and as much as it's been joked about, watching that film, when you get to that moment, it is still super difficult to deny the power of that moment
Mm,
and to deny how effective that whole scene is put together. It there is a part of me, there I saw something, a picture that said like, what do you wish you could, a movie you wish you could have seen in the theater, like when it released, not
mm.
just going to get to see it in the theater. What's a movie you wish you could see in the theater when it was released? And for me, of course, probably because it's my favorite, but it would be
Oh
The
yeah.
Exorcist. I wish I could go while it was playing in first run and sit in that audience and
Mm.
experience the electricity of how that audience must have felt about that movie.
But
Because
you
yeah,
now, like you
right, yeah,
already,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. If
yeah,
I can, well, my scenario would be for that kind of thing would be like I was actually around when this movie was new, and it would be
mm.
Jurassic Park. Like I wish I was
Oh,
part of
okay,
that
yeah,
first initial, like, because I know you're a part of that. Jackson
yeah,
was part of that generation. Eric, my aunt, my
yeah.
mom, like so many people I know was part of. Were old enough to be part of
Yeah, yeah,
that
I did.
group.
I saw Jurassic Park in the theater
I'm
first run.
so
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah, yeah. It was
Um,
cool. It was cool.
I do want to ask you a question about this scene.
Sure.
When me and my mom were on our way back from our trip from St. Louis,
Hmm.
my birthday trip, we were talking about The Exorcist, and
Yep.
she did not like that movie. It freaked her out, like I said in a
Sure.
review.
Yeah. Many people.
Um,
Yep.
One thing I forgot to mention was the ridiculousness of some people saying that it's the most evil movie of all time.
Right.
And my
Right.
argument is, evil loses. Um, God wins in the end. And
Yes.
so I brought this up to my mom, and then she kind of questions me a little bit. She's like, "Well, does evil really lose? Because isn't there that constant struggle between good and evil?"
Hmm.
So what
Yeah.
are your feelings about that? Do you think good really won, or do you
I
think it's
think.
a darker ending?
Well, I think Friedkin would have. So I'll tell you what Friedkin was on record about, what Blatty was on record about. Blatty was William Peter Blatty was the writer, and then how I feel about it. So for me, Friedkin would love it to be up to the audience. And Friedkin talked many times about saying that it was kind of a litmus test, that it says a lot about you and your
Mm,
view of the world, how you see the ending of that particular struggle playing out. William Peter Blatty, point blank said like, I do not want audiences to think the devil won. Like he's
right.
like, I do not want that to be. As according to William Peter Blatty, who wrote it, he's absolutely no, like good triumphs in this movie. This is an uplift movie. um and for me, what I think is really so powerful about it is you have to recontextualize what is victory. And to me, I feel like a lot of times we view victory as, that means that it can have no tragedy, it can have no sacrifice.
Mm,
If it's true victory, then it has to be like we won, right? Like evil was defeated and we won. And to me, the power of that is Reagan is saved. Reagan lives, she survives. This was
right.
always about Reagan. But to the demon that possesses her, that demon was after Marin, and that demon was after Karis. He was after
Mm,
the priests, right? But they were trying to save the girl. And so the biggest reason why I still continue to say, like, no, this is absolutely a triumphant film is because when Father Karras is completely in the depths of despair after he has been manipulated and driven back downstairs, then what arrests him back into sanity is when Chris McNeil, Reagan's mother, walks in and says, "Is my little girl going to die?"
Right.
And you can see the look on Jason Miller, the actor's face, as he turns and he realizes, like, oh, this has never been about, like, this is not about me. This is
Mm,
not me pitying myself. This is not about me. This is like, I've got to save this girl. So then when he goes up and forcefully ousts the demon in an act of willful self-sacrifice, and through that act of self-sacrifice is able to overpower the demon long enough to throw himself out the window so that it can kind of be dispelled.
right.
I absolutely feel like it is a triumphant film. Like it's a
Mm,
movie where good definitely wins,
yeah.
because Reagan survives.
Oh, yeah.
She's whole at the end. And I feel like one of the biggest things that I can understand people being very disturbed, because it's not, especially like when you consider matters of faith, and they're like, well, why didn't the demon just lose the moment that the
Mm,
good guys showed up? Um, and when we think about that, I think part of my view of it is also that, like, look, that it's always a constant struggle. Like, it is
right.
always this tension that we have to
So when you
recognize.
say that, I'm guessing people are thinking, okay, so as soon as these two priests walk into the room, like the demon just evaporates.
Right.
I'm
That's the
assuming,
way that's the way they think it should happen.
well,
Yeah.
the thing about it is like you can't have a victory, you can't win a battle without having a few battle scars. You have to
Oh,
fight.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
You
And
literally have to go through hell
yeah,
to
and
get what you
and I
want.
think I think one of the most meaningful things to me about it, and then we can move on, is it is in that film what diffuses and defeats the darkness
Mhm.
is a choice of self-sacrifice.
Right.
And that I find profoundly beautiful. I find it
Yeah, much
profoundly
like,
human
how Tony Stark sacrificed himself,
in
to
Endgame.
defeat
Yep.
Thanos.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
if you don't mind, I wanna give you my quick thoughts real
Yeah,
quick.
sure, please do.
I think it was a victory in that moment, but I
Mhm.
think the whole over the whole grand scheme of things, like, I think it's still that constant struggle between good and
Right.
evil.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I think I just now thought about this, it's funny how me and my mom were having this conversation right after when we went to go see Judas Priest. Because
Oh,
they
yeah,
have a
okay.
song on their new album called "The Serpent and the King," and
Oh,
it's very much
interesting.
yeah, it's very much about, like, that classic, like, battle between good and evil, like, God and
Mm.
the devil. Um,
Yeah,
Lord Baltimore versus Harry Potter,
right.
the Emperor versus, Luke Skywalker,
Mhm.
Dracula versus Van Helsing, like, the
Yeah.
ultimate force of evil going up against the ultimate force of good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that constant struggle, I mean, that
Joker
is
and the
a
Batman.
yeah, I mean, and it's a struggle that we can all relate to. It's a struggle that it's a way in which we kind of wrap some meaning around our lives, is
Mm,
is overcoming evil. And again, one of the things that I think is really effective about The Exorcist is that it doesn't create a lot of neat and tidy answers for
right.
people, but rather prompts discussion and
Mm,
prompts thought, and I love that about it. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Um, so what's your number two, Mr. Drew?
My number 2 is actually a funny one right after that because this is a movie that has to deal with demons and spiritual stuff
Okay.
where the demon wins, like, undefinitively wins,
Okay.
and that's
I
a
think I know
movie
where you
yeah, it's a movie called Hereditary.
I knew you were gonna, as soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be Hereditary. Oh my gosh. That's
Um,
that sound, dude.
yes,
Oh
and it has to be Charlie losing her head
man. Oh
because
Lord.
she gets a poison reaction from this cake that her brother was forced to would take her to this party.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid, he just wants to like get high and like have sex with like this girl in his school,
Yeah.
and he has to deal with with his sister, where the grandma is actually drawing her from beyond the grave, and then so he's rushing her to the hospital, And of course, you don't know anything about the grandma stuff yet. At this,
Sure.
but he's rushing her to the hospital, and the grandma like makes her stick her head out the door or out the window, goes
Ooh,
floating off, and the brother is traumatized by this,
man.
and he slowly drives home, slowly goes up into his bedroom, and just lays there, and then
Oh,
it's a time lapse, and then you hear Tony Collette scream literal bloody murder because, ugh, I
yeah.
can't imagine being a parent having to
Oh,
deal with.
it's nightmarish. I mean,
Yes.
it's the definition of nightmarish. That film
Well, do you
like
mind if I
pushes
finish?
everybody. Oh
And
yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and then it cuts to her like in a room. I can't remember what room it was. Because there's actually this scene I didn't want to watch again.
Mm,
By the way, so she's in this room and she's like hugging her husband, just crying and
hmm.
screaming. She said, "Why me?"
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then it jumps cut to Charlie's decapitated head with ants crawling all over her.
Oh.
And remember the part in Signs when Joaquin Phoenix sees the alien for the first time, and he goes,
Hmm.
"Whoa, whoa!"
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
didn't physically do that because it was nighttime and everybody was sleeping, but in my head, that's why I was like, I'm like, "Whoa, whoa!"
It's so intense. It's
And
it's insane.
those are the jump scares that always will get me.
Hmm.
Is when they don't make it explicitly obvious that that jump scare is going to happen.
Right. Yep. I agree.
Yeah, because there's some that that build it enough and those enough things, enough like clues that something's about to happen. But when it just
Yeah.
happens all of a sudden, or it suddenly builds up to it, like the one in the Sixth Sense, like that
Yeah.
will always scare the crap out of me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Man,
man.
that's a good one. I was hoping Hereditary would show up on the list because it didn't show up on mine,
Yeah.
but I
Um.
cut it with
Yeah.
some grief. Okay, so we're here. This is the number one.
Yep.
So I've already given my when I was thinking about scariest moments, this is why this had to take the number one spot.
Mm,
Because it's very easy to talk about like, oh, well, The Exorcist is my favorite film, give The Exorcist the number one spot and everything like that. I've gone there before. But the number one spot is actually a film that's already been mentioned on your list, but it's a different one. And I almost said it when you brought this up. But for me, I was 16 years old and the film Seven had been released to home video.
mm.
And I was watching that film and incredibly disturbing. I was watching it in the privacy of my bedroom. I was watching it, my parents were asleep. And I mean, I found the film incredibly disturbing, incredibly unnerving. The one that really got under my skin, man, is Sloth. Like
Yes, I
this
can imagine.
not only the actual scare when that victim comes back to life or, awakens, but just the whole gruesomeness of everything surrounding that and the dour, oppressive tone of the overall film.
Mm.
The reason that I gave that specifically Sloth the number one spot is because to this day, so I watched that film when I was 16 years old. To this day, that is the last film that I can remember actively making me lose sleep. I had real trouble going to
Wow.
sleep the night that I watched Seven. And I've had plenty of films unnerve me, unsettle me. I've had to like watch a palate cleanser afterwards, like a couple
Mm.
Simpsons episodes or something. But
Yeah, I was watching
honestly,
that with Late Night with the Devil.
oh really? Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I ended up
But
watching the Freaky Friday remake.
oh yeah, just to try
Yeah.
to cleanse a little bit. But yeah, Seven was the last time that I literally had some trouble going to sleep out of fear after
Wow.
watching Seven. That was the last time. So that's why it had to take the top spot, and
Yeah,
specifically the moment of sloth.
Hereditary did that for me.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't have a yeah, I slept for maybe like 30 minutes and then I could not go back to sleep and then I ended up
Mm.
having to watch YouTube videos.
Yeah, yeah, just to get something else on your brain. I get it.
Yep.
No, I totally get it. So yeah, that's my number one is when Sloth awakens, the victim awakens from Seven. That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Right,
You can
so
delay
my
no
number
more.
one.
Yeah. What's your number one?
Okay. So sometimes in movies, there when you say the title of the movie, you think of certain images.
Okay.
In Rocky, you think of Rocky going up the steps or
Mm-hmm.
running up the steps. When you think Psycho, you think of the shower scene.
Yep.
Um, and that's what are those scenes that I like to call that scene.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you see the title, you think of those moments, and there's plenty of those.
Yep.
This scene is a that scene.
Okay.
And so when I say alien, what do you automatically think?
Oh man, the chest burster. The chest burster.
Yes, and it's that scene.
It's that scene. Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Glass, Ripley being assaulted by ass.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because they're both equally scary. Chestburster, I knew was coming, but the
Mm-hmm.
assault by ass, I did not see coming.
Sure.
Why the
Oh man.
chestburster is so scary to me? It's because, for one, I hate parasites. Parasites scare the crap out of me. If something
Understandably.
inside of you.
Yep.
Um, and then there's obviously a sexual nature to it.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's not up for interpretation at all, because Dan
Mm-mm.
O'Bannon, who wrote this movie, basically said that.
Straight up said it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so basically, it's the man gets raped in this movie
Yeah.
because the facehugger, goes on his face, and then the tail is very phallic, and
Yeah.
it plants an egg inside of him, and it bursts
Oof.
out of his chest, and it's extremely gory. And I think it's interesting that at this time in the 70s, there's a lot of what they call rape revenge thrillers or horror.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was kind of interesting that he kind of brought that into it. And H.R. Geiger designed the Xenomorph. And H.R. Geiger has a lot of like very kind of sexual stuff going
Mm-hmm.
on there with like technology and stuff like that. And it's really trippy. I'm actually a pretty big fan of H.R. Geiger for that reason, because of how weird and strange it is.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Oh
if I would
man.
hang up any of his stuff in up on my wall, because I don't want people to
No.
think I'm a weirdo. But I do think his stuff is very interesting.
Yeah.
And the fact that he designed my favorite movie monster of all time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a powerful,
Mm,
potent work. That movie still has just an it's just an inimitable effect.
mm.
It is absolutely potent what
Yeah,
happens
it
in
is
that film.
creepy. It is a
Yeah.
creepy, creepy movie. And
Honestly, the chestburster scene as well would have been like, even if we had gone to like
mm,
15, like chestburster was one of like two that I finally cut where I was like, okay, this is not on
yeah,
my
too
list,
obvious.
but man, it was it's effective. I
Yeah.
think it absolutely deserves to be at the top.
So, quick story before I get to the next scene in this movie that freaks me out.
Hmm.
So my aunt saw this movie. Her mother took my grandma took my aunt and a friend to go see this movie, and
Yeah.
back in one of those dome theaters.
Yeah.
And so my aunt, she's older than my mom, so like she wanted to be cool and like sit by herself with her friend.
Hmm.
Soon the chest burster scene happened. Like she started freaking out and like started going to went to the seat where my grandma was.
Wow.
And they went back in the this was when the movie first came out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would have been wild to see that for the
Mm,
first time. That's oh,
yeah.
it's crazy.
And then what makes um Ripley being assaulted by Ash so scary is you don't see it coming, because
Yeah.
she goes into Mother, the computer system within the Nostromo ship, and finds out that they were supposed to bring back the Xenomorph back to Earth to study it. And then Ass comes up from the background and then starts attacking her.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
what's weird is it's in like some like the living quarters, and there's like nudie mags and like nudie posters everywhere. So going back to like the very sexual nature of the movie.
Right.
And he takes one of those magazines, rolls it up, again, very phallic imagery, and starts shoving it down her throat, her mouth.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really disturbing.
Yeah, it's visceral. Yeah,
Right.
it's yeah, very frightening.
And then Parker comes up and like takes like an air canister or a fire extinguisher and hits Ash over the head and he starts freaking out. And
Yeah.
then he gets he hits him again and then his whole head comes off and like
Yeah.
with the milky white stuff. Again, going back to that very kind of sexual imagery.
Yeah, I mean, that's long been studied, long been, dissected, but it's absolutely present in the interior of that film.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then a decapitated Ass Head basically explains to the remaining crew why he wants the xenomorph. Because he
Hmm.
says, I admire its purity. A survivor unclouded by consciousness, remorse, or delusions or morality. That is freaky. And
Yeah,
he's
and
seen a,
as a concept, yeah,
and he is seen a decapitated Ian Helm, rest in peace, say that.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
freaky.
yeah. It's intense, man, and it's that film is unmatched. There's plenty of its sequels that have their merits. I think
Mm,
Aliens is a brilliant movie. I have some fondness
mm,
for some of the later sequels, but nothing tops for me. Nothing tops the original. Like
right.
I think
Well,
that
I
first one
think it's
has
also
such intense power.
interesting with the first two, like I said, there is a very sexual undertone strongly in this movie.
Yeah.
There's also a very parental overtone.
Yeah, I could
Yeah,
see that.
because like the
Yeah.
SIP system is called mother, and then
Mm-hmm.
the second one really becomes a mother figure to you.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then the whole,
Absolutely.
the alien or the face hugger implants that. So that goes it kind of so that whole face hugger thing goes both ways. Both
Yeah, it
kind of
does.
things. The
Yeah.
sexual and then the parental.
Yeah.
Like it's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you excited for Romulus?
Well, hopefully when it comes out, I've already seen it.
Yeah, exactly. When
Yeah, I
this
think me and my
episode
mom are
released.
gonna. Yeah, I think me and my mom are gonna go see it.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. Dude, this has been fun.
Yeah,
This has been a
yeah.
blast.
So before I wrap stuff up real quick, where can people find you?
Thank you for asking. So, I am a co host at the Fear of God podcast. My co host Nathan Rouse and I, every week, the mantra of our show is that we say we examine what scares us in order to find what saves us. So, we look at horror films and horror media through a spiritual, philosophical, and faith based lens, and just kind of unpack the spooky, scary things. But also, we have a lot of fun too. So, yep, the
Right,
Fear of
sweet.
God podcast.com is the home where you can kind of link to all of the other places. So
Yep, and well, I know we're recording this early, but around this time you're probably reviewing a horror franchise of some sort, and we don't know which one it
we
is yet.
are. We are, but yeah, at the stage we're recording, it's early enough in the year that we don't know what we're going to be doing. But yeah, over there we will have picked by that point
Mhm.
a horror franchise that we'll make our way through for the entire month of October and a couple of weeks in September, usually, depending on how big the franchise is.
Right.
We've batted around several ideas
Mm,
this time around. We don't know exactly what's going to take the top spot this time, but we did
right.
Scream last year. The year
And
before
I was
that,
on
we
that.
did Yeah, you sure
Yeah.
were. And the year before that, we did Halloween. So yeah, I don't know what franchise we'll do this year, but there've been several ideas batted around that we're pretty
Sweet.
excited about. So
Yep. And awesome, man. I'm excited to see which one it is. It's so weird because we're recording this before you made that decision, but when people are watching this, you already made the decision. So I'll probably
exactly.
insert something here, maybe. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Of course. Absolutely.
Future Drew here. The horror series that Reed and Nathan are currently reviewing for this October season is the Alien franchise. Future Drew out. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on this,
Oh,
man. It's always a
it was
pleasure
a
to talk with
pleasure.
you.
It was a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for inviting me. I
yeah,
I love a list. This was great.
yeah. I really want to make this like a yearly tradition. Like
Sure. I would love it. That would be fun.
we can do all kinds of stuff like top 13 scariest moments or horror moments in non-horror movies.
Oh, yeah.
Chills,
Yeah.
jump scares. We can do all kinds of stuff.
Exactly. Oh, that would be a blast. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm game anytime. Thank you as
yeah,
always for having me. I really
yeah, for
appreciate
sure.
it. Yeah, appreciate you,
And
bud.
so before I close this video or this episode out, just gonna remind you guys the next set of episodes that we got going on. Next episode after this, um, on October 30th. on Devil's Night to be in particular because this movie ties into that. For the 30th anniversary, we're reviewing The Crow.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I'm excited for that. And
Yeah,
I'm
Alex
actually
Proyas, man.
yep, and I'm gonna post that a little bit later in the day, maybe like closer to nighttime, because it's supposed to be like Devil's Night. Um, and then on Halloween for my Halloween special, me and Eric will be posting our Ghostbusters commentary. I'm
Oh,
really excited
nice.
for. I decided to do a commentary because I think that movie deserves a commentary rather than a review.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
so
so much fun.
yeah, and we're both pretty big Ghostbusters fans, so I'm excited for that one.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great, dude.
Yeah, for sure. So, if you like this episode and you want to see more spooky and weird content, make sure you slash that subscribe button and follow us on Facebook, Twitter X, and Spotify at Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond. And also, don't forget to leave this episode a killer comment and give it a King Kong size thumbs up. And as always, guys, always remember to stay weird.